Okay, so I'm doing the alternator in this thing. There's a lot of good videos on YouTube on how to do it. I'm just going to cover a couple of points that I didn't really see on YouTube and talk a little bit about how this all came about and my opinion on these things. This is a 2008. This is a 6.4 diesel. They made it from somewhere about 2008 to 2010, I believe. Could be a few months either which way they made them. The motors were actually made by a company called Navistar. There's been a lot of issues regarding the motors, and I'm not going to get into that. This truck has kind of been a love-hate relationship with me. I don't sleep at nights a lot because of this truck. It hasn't actually had any major malfunctions. It has had some, and they are all directly related to that 6.4 liter. But what we're going to talk about today is the alternator. Nice fish. So I guess first thing is I should talk about right in the beginning, the way it happened. I was warming up the truck. I had gotten in it, started it. I noticed a kind of a funny smell, a toxic smell we'll call it. It was a rubbery, electrically yucky smell. Very short time later, not even a minute later, I noticed smoke billowing out the vents into the cab, out the heating vents, the air conditioning vents, and it's filling up the cab. So I quickly shut it off, popped the hood, and pulled the battery cables off. I had just changed the batteries, so it took me no time to take the cables off, but I couldn't see through all the smoke. It basically looked like a fire in the engine compartment. So once the smoke started to clear, I could see it coming from the alternator. You can just barely see the alternator in these things. It's way down low. But smoke is just pouring out of the alternator. So anyways, I know it's the alternator now. I started looking into changing the alternator. And like anything, what do you do first? You watch a YouTube video. So I kind of started going through there's a handful of them anyways, and I started watching them, and I noticed kind of a theme. These things, the alternators are all catching fire. Like, I don't know how many have actually caused the trucks to completely burn, but I imagine there's some out there because like they are catching fire. Anyways, when I pulled it out, I noticed it's completely seized. You can't move the pulley whatsoever on the alternator. And all the other videos, they're kind of the same. I watched one video and they said, well, this is a very rare thing to happen. Well, it's not so rare. It's just maybe not that many people have made YouTube videos about it. How many people do make YouTube videos though? So how many people have actually had this happen and not really done anything, just bought a new alternator? I would say lots. I don't know how many of these motors they made. Probably 1 million, maybe more. Now, isn't that something that there should have been a recall? You kind of don't really want your cab filling up with toxic smoke when you're driving. Luckily, I was here and I was able to get out. I was only sick for about 2 days after breathing that crap. So now, anyways, I've went through the nightmare of taking the thing out. A lot of videos, they'll tell you, oh, it's easy. Well, there's not one video where they film the whole job. And there's a reason for that. Because it's not really that easy. You have to get a wrench, you have to get a 3/8 ratchet up where human fingers just can't reach. So you gotta guess to where is to put this ratchet, and it takes 2 hands, and it's a pain. A huge pain. That's the biggest, worst part of this, is getting the ratchet to loosen the tensioner. I'll show you a couple more things that could help you out if you're in this situation. Okay, now this helps organize just where everything goes. And it's got a lid, so you can close the lid and you don't lose anything. Okay, these two are 5/16, and they go closest to the front bumper. I'll actually show you here. Those first two come up from underneath. 1, 2 right there. Now next you can see these 4 tiny ones. 7/32. They go all around the outside edge. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. This last thing is one of them push plastic things, and it goes up where the mud flap is on the back side of the fender. This one here, it too is the same as these ones, and it just kind of goes up in the middle of nowhere up in the fender. Well, you can see this one plain as day. This spacer and this go for the mud flap. And now you got these 3 that actually hold the alternator in. This one here goes on top with this funny bracket thing, and these 2 go on the bottom. Now these ones are all 15mm. I thought that to be kind of strange. Why are those 3 metric? But now more that I think about it, the motor is made by some other company, so maybe the motor they used metric, maybe? I don't know, but those are definitely 15s. Now, to take these 3 out, I left the front tire on, and I used just a series of extensions. However, the one extension at the end here is one of those wobble type, because this top bolt, it's a little troublesome. You can see it in other videos, but using this wobble thing, it definitely makes it easy. Kind of goes without saying, unhook both of your batteries before starting this. Okay, now without the alternator in there, it kind of makes it a little easier to show you the tensioner. Now, this is the tensioner here, and that's the tensioner pulley. Now, if you reach up from the bottom and get your index finger up in there, you will be able to feel on the front towards the driver's side you will feel a square hole. That square hole you can fit a 3/8 ratchet into. It's going to take a little bit of finagling. I'll use that word instead of the word I'd like to use. But you can get in there, you can get the ratchet in there, and you might have to put a cheater bar or something on the ratchet to make it longer, unless you have a longer ratchet. A Johnson bar also will work in that situation. It's just very tight, there's not much room in there. I did it with a 3/8 ratchet, but I couldn't fit the bar on, so I used my left hand to pull the ratchet to loosen the tensioner, and I reached around with my right hand and slid the belt off of the alternator. We'll see if that still works when I go to put it back on, but because I'm here alone, it's the way I had to do it. Now, these bolts here, these holes, there's 3 of them. There's one up here that you can't really see. That is what held the alternator in. However, you have to take those 3 bolts, you loosen the alternator, and you spin it around so that you're able to reach this connection that is on the back of the alternator, and it is a 13mm. If you have any questions, just go into my comments and ask me. I'll let you know. I might film putting it back together. It's very difficult to film because there's just no room in here. But as you can see, it can be done, and it can be done in mud puddles, because I don't have a clean shop floor and a nice shop, heated shop to work in. Now, the reason I do this myself, because it sure would be nice just to bring it to a shop and do it, but I used to, when this was still under warranty, I had to bring it to Ford to get work done. Well, every single time I brought this thing into Ford, they did something sketchy, we'll say. That goes from charging me for stuff they didn't do, to forgetting to put bolts in, and me months later looking, going, hey, how come there's no bolts there? That was one time. Charging me for work that I did not approve. That was another one. So I've had multiple experiences with Ford, but just none of them good. With the dealership, that is. So anyways, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks for watching.